Hi, we're in my kitchen now. So today I'm doing something a little bit different, basically because fuck it, I've kind of been like, I like doing the reaction stuff with the music and all that, but I want to do stuff related to my artwork too, so pretty much we're here to talk about this. Now you may be wondering, Gray, what the hell is this fucking pentagram weird looking binder you have? So, fun fact about this is actually like a standard like binder covered in EVA foam that I painted to make it look old and leathery and all that fun stuff, and I glued it to it. But anyway, this is the basis for my world, which is a work in progress thing. I don't really have a name for the world yet. I probably should. But this is pretty much the blueprint that I started in college, and yeah, this is pretty much 80% of the information, I would say. At least from like a very basic introductory standpoint. And it's called Encyclopedia Satanica. Because I had to make that joke. Also, the ignore how shit the printing is. I printed this on my regular ass printer, so the quality is kind of garbage. But I'll put the actual artwork for all of this up on screen, because it's all in like black and white and kind of garbage, and yeah. But anyway, I'm doing this basically because I want to introduce you guys to this world, because they're going to come up a lot on the channel, because I've got things in the works. Just also as sort of a side note, this is very heavily based on ghosts world a little bit. Like I don't want to claim it's the same thing, because it's really not. It's more like if you took ghost as a concept and focused way more on like the day-to-day ministry stuff instead of like the band stuff. So a lot of it is based off of like the idea of a satanic band living in a ministry and yada yada, but it's separate, as in like the focus is on the people in the ministry, and it's like focused on the people living there, not so much the we go on tour and we're a band aspect. I mean, that plays into it with some of the characters based on like their worldview and perception and what they know about themselves and stuff like that. But yeah. I mean, how could I not take inspiration from my favorite band ever, and also the thing that I'm hyper fixated on? So, anyway, that tangent aside, let's get into the actual contents of the book. Ooh, I look fucking scary reading this. I look like a child. Anyway, so the first part is the ministry itself, which is sort of like it's meant to be like one location amongst a vast sector of, or like a vast congregation of like multiple ministries across the world. So like this is one ministry among like hundreds of others across like the entire world. So this is literally the Italian sector and the Italian ministry specifically. And it's kind of like gothic. It's got this castle-y appearance. I haven't drawn it yet, aside from like a really shitty map and blueprint of what it would look like, and a couple stills of like some locations that you could see in this place, which, you know, I don't have an actual outside view of this thing yet. but I'm gonna get to it eventually. It looks like kind of scary, and it's one of those things where like it's this big gothic intimidating building, but it's very warm and welcoming when you go in. Like the people are very friendly because they're basically taking in other people who are like super lost and outcasted and sort of like the misfits of the world, and they are taken in, and pretty much the only thing you have to do to stay is spread the word of Satan and, you know, assist the ministry. Like, that's kind of it. And even then, it's not like every single thing is delegated, so it's not like you're doing everything. It's like broken up into different jobs and stuff. I wrote a lot of descriptions in here about like what it looks like. So I'll just read this out, actually. So the lobby is quaint. There are 2 doors which lead to the kitchen and hall, and doors that lead to the quarters where siblings of sin reside. These sisters, brothers, and siblings are the lowest ranking of the clergy, though their value is high. Without siblings, the work of the Dark One would have no backbone. The kitchen and dining room are within the same space, allowing for plenty of room to dine for all members of the ministry. I think I would change this now to have it sort of be like there's a dining hall and sections to dine that are separated, but like you still have like visibility of the kitchen from those rooms. Sort of like in restaurants where technically you're dining in the dining rooms, but there's doors that lead directly to the kitchen. And sometimes you can kind of see in there, like it's archways and stuff, not necessarily like closed doors and whatever. Just because I think closed doors and stuff would get in the way. And part of the draw is also smelling the food, because I mean, it's fresh and shit. The back windows allow for plenty of light, and the space is decorated with paintings of natural landscapes and homely decor. Outside of the kitchen, the hall also leads outside to the gardens, planted by Papa... Oh, I changed that name around. Planted by Papa Note One himself. That has since changed also. I've switched it around to Papa Omnia is the line of Papas. Basically because I didn't end up... I just vibe more with Omnia as a word. And it kind of... To me, it flows nicer. The same hallway leads to the library and the commons area. The library contains all sorts of resources and information on Satan, magic, alchemy, history, the arts, and of course many more subjects and stories. The commons is the perfect place to have a chat with a friend or meet up to make plans. Moving to the second floor, oh, this is where I have like the layout of the thing. The most important areas are the infirmary and the alchemy room. The infirmary and adjacent rehabilitation and recovery rooms are where medical needs are met. This can range from injuries requiring medical assistance to births to severe illnesses. Across the hall, the alchemy room is where all magic is put to use. Medicines are developed, spells are studied and tested, and all magically inclined people are encouraged to take part. Also on the second floor are the ghouls' quarters. They are not much different in general appearances from the siblings' quarters, but ghouls are usually kept separate from humans to avoid injury during the springtime cycles. Friendship between ghouls and humans are encouraged, however. They are not inherently dangerous. This is true. I kept that the same, pretty much. They're not inherently threatening creatures, but they are creatures that are sort of... like, they are born of hell, for the most part. There are circumstances in which humans transform into ghouls, but those are under very specific circumstances of unrest and spiritual, basically spiritual longing so powerful that you are transformed. It's super specific, and there's like a bunch of stuff that goes into it, but anyway, the third and final floor is reserved for the upper clergy. These are the most important members of the Italian convent, including the current and previous papas, sisters, and I also ended up changing that. Because instead of like Sister Imperator and Papa Nil, there are still like those two types of figures, except like it's a Mother Superior and like the last Papa of a certain era's generation. So the reason it switches around to the Omnia line is basically because technically all of the children that Papa Narciso gave birth to were like out of wedlock and shit. So they're all technically bastards and sort of part of the bloodline, but they're separated enough to where technically the clergy considers them separated inheritance. All cardinals and archbishops are also part of the upper clergy. Their offices are on this floor as well as their chambers. These members of the clergy are not to be disturbed or interrupted and command respect. Siblings and ghouls may visit when permitted or in the case of an emergency. The Papa's rooms are furnished and decorated to his tastes, and no two rooms are alike for the cardinals and archbishops. Their offices, while small and tidy, are also decorated however the individual sees fit. Siblings and ghouls are also encouraged to decorate their spaces so long as they do not replace the furniture provided to them unless it is in need of replacing or repair, and that they do not remove the lantern bulbs outside their doors. The Italian convent is the second largest convent created in the name of the Dark One and provides plenty of space and tends to the needs of every member who enters. I don't know why I decided to make it the second largest. I probably should have just made it the largest because I don't know why I made some of these decisions anymore, because again, this was in college and I think this was in like third year, so this was already almost 2 years ago. So some of these decisions are swapped around and all that. It is also surrounded by plenty of woods and hidden from the public and any forces of danger via a magical force field. This is what protects members from fallen angels This is what protects members from angels of light, new outlets, and the occasional curious wanderer who is certain they saw a glimpse of a building that is not there. Members of the ministry are often guided here by Lucifer and can see past the illusion in order to enter when they need to find solace. So that's basically how people end up wandering in as these sort of lost refugee type situations and stuff. Like very, very, very vulnerable people end up sort of making their way in, and just people who really need help, honestly, because that's how I view these types of things. That is sort of pulling on like the typical churches take people in type thing. But there are like notable differences between like Catholicism as a concept and this world's version of Satanism, because basically it's very like actual Satanism based on what I've read up on. It's very like taking pleasure in human existence and like basically worshiping the idea of humanity, kind of, but personified in Satan, where it's like people are inherently flawed and that shouldn't be something that's like looked down upon. So things like, you know, sex and feelings like anger and pride and sloth and things like that are taken in as the human experience rather than pushed aside as like, you must be a perfect, virtuous person all the time. Because I personally also don't believe that people have to be these perfect saints all the time. And I also can't stand the hypocrisy of some of the organized religions, especially in America. Then we get into one of the creatures in this world, which is the Shadow Familiar. And basically these are sort of like helpers and guides for usually the upper clergy. they can go to siblings and ghouls, but it's not very common. It's usually the papas or the cardinals that end up with the shadow familiars, and basically they are literally like these pockets of like misty shadow things that take the form of different animals and creatures and stuff, basically to be a little more appealing and also to take a form that's more earthly, to not scare their partner, basically. And they end up kind of binding to their people and can be summoned basically automatically. It's kind of like in different RPGs where you can just summon an animal, or like you have a little pet in like a Wizard 101 type game where it's like you've got your little creature and you're like, hey, psst, psst, come here. Or like, you know, with the cat, hi baby. With a cat, it's like, psst, 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 come here, kitty, kitty. And they can be summoned from like miles away. Because if they're not doing anything that's for their like partner person, they're kind of just off doing their own thing, because they are just like kind of wild animals. And also they're very guided by like intuition, and some of them can like telepathically communicate, but it's usually sort of through gesture and glances that they communicate with their person. And sometimes there are instances, like, you know how you talk to your pets and stuff? People, for the most part, do that, even though the communication is mostly intuitive and, like, felt and, like, read in gesture and things, kind of like with actual animals, where, like, you can tell a dog is happy when its tail wags and stuff. But basically, usually there's no communication through spoken word, though speaking to them is often done out of habit anyway. It's literally like talking to your pets and whatever. Shadow familiars are called as such since they are able to walk among shadows, warp into smoky, shadowy mist, and slip through places in the dark. This is how they are able to slip between rooms without opening doors, seemingly appear out of thin air, or track their person without them knowing. They can take physical form of whatever animal deeply connects with their person in order to best serve their needs and have the best connection with them. It has been said that they originate from the shadow of those in need. The shadow familiar can be many things to their person: a protector, a helper, emotional support animal, guide, pet, friend, and most importantly, a magical assistant. Shadow familiars are connected deeply to magic, ritual, and feelings. They are born from a place of teaching and guiding, and in olden times taught magic to witches and helped them channel their strength into power. Though they are more accustomed to domestic life now than ever before, the role of the shadow familiar has not changed. They have guided magically inclined to their destinies for centuries and have channeled their energy into the dark arts for much longer than what is recorded in history. So yeah, they're basically like rare little creatures that help you out. So then I got into like making an alphabet for the ghouls. It's not that important. It's basically ghouls have an alphabet that they developed in hell, and it's kind of ancient and weird, and most of the writings that are translated now are like about their world, their beliefs, and their history and all that. It has also allowed for the bond and understanding between them and humans to grow exponentially over the last few centuries. And most schools can write in Latin, and pretty much wherever their ministry is, they pick up the language fairly quickly. So if you're in the German sector, they pick up German. If you're in like an English sector, they pick up English, etc. Usually the written language of these days are used basically between ghouls and ghouls alone. Like, they're not trying to write to humans in the ghoul language. And usually it's in the context of like journaling or speaking to each other privately or translating other languages into something that every ghoul can read, because like ghoul language is inherently connected to every ghoul. So say you have someone from the Italian sector and someone from the German sector, they meet up. Neither of them can speak German or Italian, but since they're both ghouls, they know the ghoul language. And the spoken language of the ghouls differs vastly from any other like known language, and it can't really be translated because it's very clicky and growly and gesture based, and sometimes like smell based even, where it's like pheromones that are given off, to where it's like that's also part of communication and humans can't smell that. So it's like that aspect of it is really difficult for humans to understand because it's so different from any like language that is something you translate. And then I have like this whole section about a character, but I'm not going to get into that today because this is going to be long enough just talking about the ministry itself. There are some demons that haunt the ministry, but that's more connected to a specific character, so I don't want to get into that either. Demons are separate from ghouls, by the way. Demons are more like spiritual nasties, basically. They're kind of like ghosts, except they're inherently evil. So it's like, or like most of the time they're inherently misguided. So they do come from hell, but they come from like a collective feeling of something, or like a connective idea of a specific sort of, they come from like a specific idea. So it's like you have two demons that are sort of connected to each other by the fact that they both manipulate the truth of a situation or like a person's mental health. So they're connected in the way of like one manipulates you with words and like language, another manipulates you with like hallucinations, but both of them inherently manipulate and try to basically twist the truth. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. There are also like children's tales and stuff in this world. I literally wrote a thing about like ghouls in order to introduce them as a concept, where it's like, you know, ghouls look different from humans, and like it's kind of like this explanation of like ghouls may look different from humans, but they're essentially like still creatures with souls, and some are previously human, and they're very connected to humanity in the way of both serving Satan and also sort of being able to help humanity and guide humanity in sort of like an angel type way, or like with Greek myths, like what's his name? Like when Hermes guides what's his name, and he's like, here, take these shoes with the wings or whatever. I don't remember that story particularly well, but you get the idea. And then there's a ritual that I wrote out because that was part of the requirement, not gonna lie. It was kind of one of the more difficult things to come up with. And also I had to carve a whole ass candle because it was the only thing I could think to do that wasn't gonna take up more drawing time, because I was starting to get burnt out by this point. Basically the idea is that you use this candle for a ritual, and it was a specific thing. But yeah, there are a bunch of different rituals. Like there's stuff to revive the dead, which is like specifically only supposed to be performed by the papas. There are instances where that doesn't happen, and those are dangerous. It ties into other character stuff, which again, I don't want to super get into. But there are rituals to empower magic. There are rituals to just spread the word of Satan, which are like the more concert-y band type stuff. That's technically considered a ritual. Just with the band Ghost, how it's called a ritual, it is literally a sort of ritual that's kind of a mass hypnosis sort of thing, where it's like the music leaves people more open to suggestion, and it's like, believe in Satan, please. And mind you, it's a very, like, weak ritual, but it's still technically a ritual. It's the type of thing where, like, not everybody is gonna, like, end up in the congregation and the clergy and all that goes to the concerts. But you have a significant portion of people who have seen a concert and end up eventually wandering into the ministry. There's also games and stuff that the ministry partakes in. Ghouls specifically play a game called Hellhound, which is sort of a dangerous game. You establish an area outside that is very large, like large enough to run and climb and all this stuff. So usually with like all the woods surrounding the Italian ministry, there's so much woods that they have like miles and miles of woods to do this game in. And then you gather up your ghouls, you inform everybody of the rules, and the rules are as follows. All game activity happens within the boundaries of the play area. Do not bring any exterior weapons. This includes magic. You should only be using your body to defend yourself from the Hellhound. Do not use any lights unless you are human. If you are human, you may exit the game at any time and you are given a lighter. The lighter is for seeing purposes only. If you are a ghoul, you are expected to play for the entire game period. If you leave early, except in the case of severe injury, you will be playfully shunned. Do not aim to break bones, cause severe injury, or kill. So basically, yeah, that's like the prerequisites for playing the game. Technically, humans can play, but it's not recommended because it is sort of a violent game. And the role of Hellhound is basically, you get this spell casted on you to basically make you go feral as a ghoul, like a little bit feral. But you're still, like, mentally aware enough to not be totally, like, animalistic. Because a real feral ghoul will kill, like, no hesitation. But part of the fun of it is, like, the adrenaline rush of being hunted by, like, a semi-feral ghoul. Then, basically, all players run away, and they have like 30 seconds, and then the Hellhound is out to get you. Basically, the idea is the Hellhound will remove you from the play area, and if you're removed, you lose. And basically, defend yourself with any means involving your natural body, so like claws, teeth, kicking, your tail, that sort of thing. You should rely on scent and sound to keep track of who is around you, where you are, and if the Hellhound is approaching you. If you avoid the Hellhound until dawn, you win. If the Hellhound eliminates all players, the Hellhound wins. So that's what ghouls do for fun. And then there's a bunch of different, like, board games, fun little ministry, celebratory things, dances, parties, things of that nature. And then in terms of, like, culture and stuff, there's stories and history and stuff like that ties into, like, Satan and, like, the fall of Satan and things like that. There's also art pieces, so it's, like, there's museum-type things in there. There's an archive. This is where I drew this image. It's more of a painted style. It's so unlike my usual artwork, but we had to sort of make, like, culturally significant art for our world. So Inspired by the glory of Papa Omnia 1 and the fall of Lucifer, Fallen Angel captures the essence of a Papa's connection with Satan using oil paint and Papa Omnia 1 himself as a model. So yeah, it goes into like all the symbolism, detail, blah, blah, blah. That's pretty much everything. There's a little bit of more stuff with like how the band operates, because that was a later decision to be added that I haven't actually written anything solid about, and since added to this, there is plenty of room in this thing to add more pages, but I don't have a 3-hole puncher, and also I just haven't been doing a lot of writing for it recently. What I have been doing is a lot of artwork and a lot of thinking. But yeah, other stuff involving the ministry is more like concept stuff right now, like stuff I'm thinking about really hard, basically. So yeah, a lot of the other stuff that's like how the hierarchy of the ministry works is a lot of conceptual stuff. Like technically, Mother Agatha and Papa Narciso are like the top dogs at the ministry, and there's a few other clergy members that are like higher ranking than cardinals and stuff like that, but still below the papas. So like the Mother Superior, Mother Agatha, has like another sister that she's mentoring basically to fill her role, and then the papas are like the papas, so they're sort of mentoring each other, and also they have their own thing going on. Beyond just being like a ghost ripoff, because I'm so scared that people are gonna think it's a ghost ripoff. It's really not, because like I said, it's so separated from like, Ghost is a band first and foremost. The lore stuff comes later. This is like the lore stuff specifically, the band stuff is set aside as like it comes up and it is inherent to the papas as characters because of a lot of their own personality and feeling and stuff and tie-ins to the music and whatever. But for the most part, the band aspect is secondary to the actual like characters. It's very character focused because I like picking apart my little characters and being like, this is every single aspect of this character. Excuse me. So next video, at least about this, is going to talk about specific characters. So we're going to get into like the papas, we're going to get into a couple cardinals, we're going to get into ghouls, like very specific named people. We're going to get into Mother Agatha, we're going to get into Papa Narciso. Like all of this stuff is going to we're going to get into it, and there's going to be artwork and there's going to be other stuff that I'm going to share with you guys. Maybe some more like music video type stuff, because a lot of this also has to do with like my music taste beyond just Ghost. Like Ghost, yeah, is a part of it, but like in terms of story, I based most of like an entire arc of the first Papa Omnia off of an album by The Strokes. Like it's everything is gonna combine into like it's so many different influences, guys. I promise it's not just a ghost ripoff. That's what we're gonna get into in the future next time, because this is already going on for like 30 minutes. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tangent-y rambling nonsense. I hope you enjoyed this introduction to my world, and I hope you look forward to more of it, because this is like my big passion project that I really want to bring together. And if Max Landis can do this with Superman, I can do this with Ghost, god damn it. Anyway, shout out Max Landis, I guess, because he's doing his whole Kryptonian epic thing, which is basically just massive fan fiction, and this is like tangentially the same thing. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.